Alright, let's have a little bit of a moan. Honestly, I've tried to avoid skewing negative against WWE since I started doing lists again. Lists of the worst things in wrestling are fun. They're fun to write, typing the word bad into thesaurus.com and getting creative with ways to talk about what is essentially silly entertainment. But I've tried to avoid overtly coming after Vince's brigade of sweaty charades. But honestly, right now, it's hard to avoid how dumb it feels to follow modern WWE. The fact that fans have been back for a little bit and some of WWE's worst habits have intensified rather than relaxed, it gets proper dispiriting after a while. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to dedicate one full list into trying to examine what these habits are and how all those roads lead to one thing: WWE not really giving a hairless monkey ass about wrestling fans. Fans have their own bad habits, obviously, but I honestly believe at the end of the day, we want to enjoy wrestling. We want to be able to sit and watch a show without the constant specter of questionable decisions constantly needling us and forcing us to examine why. Why do we still care? Because at this point, I'm not sure that I've always got an answer to that. And it goes beyond simple stuff like, I don't like the doll. And trust me, I do not like the doll. But it's more than that, and I'll try to explain why. Now, just to be clear, this list was recorded before SummerSlam. It's not being released in response to SummerSlam. Hopefully, SummerSlam was good. We really hope that, because we just had to watch it last night. No, as you'll see, this is something that's been brewing for a while. I'm Adam from PartsFUNknown, and here are the 10 biggest ways WWE disrespects its fans. Do you often feel disrespected by WWE? Tell us how, tell us why in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And also make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Don't disrespect us. And subscribe, please. Love, bye. Number 10, tag team wrestling, I'm really going to try and make this list purely about WWE and not spend the whole time comparing them to other promotions, but for this one you can't not bring up AEW. Now hey, those guys have their own problems, but they seem to understand one thing: tag team wrestling is fun. Team psychology, creative tag cheating, the hot tags, the double team moves, the fact that tag wrestling has structured moments for stars to rest, meaning the overall work rate's a bit higher on average. I do not understand why WWE seems so dead set against denying its fans the simple pleasure of good tag team wrestling with its myopic obsession of creating short-term moments by imploding all of its goddamn teams rather than letting them have an actual division. The Revival left, the Good Brothers got released, the Hurt Business broke up, Heavy Machinery imploded, and then didn't even feud. Each brand has, what, 2, 3 teams at most? It is baffling that WWE had so many people on their roster and 5 hours to fill each week that they weren't swelling their tag roster with teams. It doesn't make any sense, and it's so disheartening for tag wrestling fans to see a vital part of wrestling essentially shrivel up and drop off like a cock in a blizzard. No, you animate that, Rich. Number 9, manipulating crowd noise. Well, this one's an easy one to unpack, isn't it? Tell us what you want, says WWE. You're the authority now. We want Bray Wyatt. Fans say, shush, shush, says WWE. Shh, just let's turn that mic down. Shush. WWE have been doing it for years, where they think they can get away with it, muting the crowd's boos at WrestleMania 32, even piping in crowd noise on recent SmackDowns. I mean, Jesus, WWE, just go back to the Thunderdome if that's how you feel. Must have been a dream for WWE that time, telling fans when to gesture, how to move, like meat sacks covered in electrodes, occasionally shocked into animation, while WWE pipes in favorable crowd noise over unfavorable Jackson Riker. Nothing says WWE would much rather a world where the crowd can't express themselves than literally turning them down when they go off message, which leads us to the age-old problem. Number 8, we choose who you like. It's something that's been talked about to death. The fact that when Vince used to take the mic to scream at the crowd, ostensibly in character, "You like what I tell you to like," that it's the biggest shoot in company history. It would be an easier point to not bring up if the fans hadn't been recently vindicated a whole bunch of times with the oft-requested heel Roman Reigns, main event Cesaro, main event Becky Lynch things, being great. Getting those things felt like a struggle, but at least we got them. But it still feels like we're having people's values dictated to us rather than the other way around. The lower mid-card runs of Shayna Baszler, a UFC fighter so dumb she can't outsmart a puppet. Keith Lee being repackaged to oblivion because of perceived problems that he didn't have. He is a sexy goddamn mountain, and Keith Lee, I love you so much. The Karrion Kross stuff. I'm not saying the fans should get to book the show, but it's maddening to see someone get over with the crowd and then have that reaction ignored because it doesn't gel with how how certain stars are viewed backstage. And hey, speaking of, number 7, WWE versus NXT. Audible sigh. How do you even try to explain to someone who doesn't watch WWE that there is a branch of WWE that everyone really likes, or at the very least really liked, that constantly received heaps of praise from fans and the industry, and WWE has decided to reshape it based on decades-old standards of populating it with the credo of no more midgets. WWE already had a dicey relationship with the black and yellow brand, pinning its champion in less than 2 minutes with a veteran painted like a psychedelic frog, whacking paper plates on a bunch of their stars and giving them names out the Black & Decker catalogue, or ridiculing the Ascension for weeks for a fleeting nostalgia segment populated by confused grandpas. We accepted that almost as the yin to NXT's yang, that WWE needed to balance out the quality somehow, but now it appears that WWE is aiming to rip out the very heart, the high work rate, low stature heart, the black heart, the all heart, no soul. Rip that out of everyone's favorite bit of WWE and replacing it with more Land of the Giants bullshit. It's not the past WWE. It's not then. It's now. And judging from recent reports, not forever. Number 6, all hail the legends. Goldberg wrestled for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. And look, he didn't win, or at least if this goes out and he won yesterday, then it doesn't matter because you won't be watching this. You'll be too busy picking up shards of TV from your carpet. But how is he still a thing in 2021? How is Jeff Hardy beating undefeated behemoths and expecting no one to care because he came out to his song from 12 years ago? And hey, maybe WWE doesn't really have much of a choice. Maybe it does need to bring back The Rock and John Cena and Goldberg and the things we remember, because without them, the current star power of its roster isn't enough to make the Big Four feel like the Big Four shows. But just look back at 1998 to 2001, wrestling's hottest boom period. All of the Big Four shows main evented by current talent that were there every single week. Doesn't it just make the rest of us feel like chumps for watching every week, where really WWE are telling us that the only weeks that matter each year are the few weeks leading up to the big shows where Taker might come back, or Brock, or anyone else who sticks their head in the door for WWE's version of sweeps, rather than the roster they have, or should I say had. Number 5, endless releases. It just makes me sad at this point. It's been an endless conveyor of who's gone since WrestleMania. And look, on a tiny level, I get it. WWE panic bought all the wrestlers it could a few years ago and didn't have the room to promote everyone, so some people drifted away. That I understand. However, Buddy Murphy, Malachi Black, the Iconics, Andrade, Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, that I do not understand. And when people of that caliber can vanish into the wind, sometimes in the middle of a rebrand, how unsure for their jobs must that make 90% of the roster? That really makes me fucking sad, especially when WWE is objectively not hurting for money, which makes all the spin of budget cuts even more insulting to the fans' intelligence. Doesn't matter who we like at the end of the day, and for all of our pointless sound and fury, and this entire list is a load of pointless sound and fury, ultimately we can't protect our favorite stars, which as the authority, you really think we'd have negotiated that as part of our deal, but we can't protect them because we don't always have the same values as WWE, because number 4, wrestling isn't the draw. It really doesn't make any sense that WWE can have so much talent on its books, but so few of them feel like stars, despite often being imported to WWE because of their indie star power. Why is that? He asked, pompously pretending to have any answers to the complex working of an entire corporation, because wrestling isn't the draw to main roster fans, apparently. Like, honestly, WWE should be the easiest thing in the world to book. Take someone good, pit them against someone else that's good. Say to the crowd, hey, this is going to be good. Here's where you can see them fight, and here's how much it costs. And that's the sell. NXT do it, putting together those excellent hype packages, sit-down interviews, doing their best to not give away the important thing, the match itself. On the main roster, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte's amazing talent for wrestling take second fiddle to weird skits about crutches. Challengers for mid-card titles earn their shot by beating the champion, giving away the match they're trying to sell. Obviously, storyline is a vital part of wrestling, but WWE produces matches to get to certain story moments and not the other way around, and they hold so many matches. Number 3, endless rematches. This one's not complicated. This has nothing to do with business psychology, the complexities of roster hierarchy, or the demands of casual fans. It's as simple as stop wasting my fucking time. Not enough happened to justify Big E and Apollo Crews wrestling each other 15 times in 2021, or Randy Orton's endless feud with Drew, or Andrade and Angel Garza's endless series with the Street Profits in 2020. You absolutely absolutely can have people wrestle each other over and over if there's story progression each time. Christian and Randy Orton in 2011 is proof of that. Same with Jeff Hardy and CM Punk in 2009, or HBK and Jericho in 2008. But so often, WWE just trots out the same matchups week after week after week, with the bare minimum of booking, just grinding these feuds into dirt rather than developing them and just diminishing the audience desires to see these talented wrestlers through the sheer power of tedium. Wrestling should be the draw, but the same wrestling every week on free TV just flattens out the entire roster and crucially shows zero respect for the audience or why they should tune in next week. Which brings me, Julie Andrews style, to one of my least favorite things. Number 2, non-finishes on pay-per-views. Stop doing this, you bastards. I'm having a full moan this week, so let's get it all out there. This is possibly my least favorite habit WWE has. The pay-per-view is a sacred place. It's what we as consumers are spending our money to see. Non-finishes on TV, it's not ideal all the time, but I get it. Protect the match, give us a reason to open our moth-infested wallets and shell out for SummerSlam to see these two settle their differences, emphasis on settle. What WWE repeatedly does is cram their cards with cheap finishes, double countouts, DQs, Hell in a Cell no contests, all to promote Raw, SmackDown, and inevitably the next pay-per-view, not understanding the parable of the boy who cried wolf. If you string out your fans, you're paying fans crucially, and expect the same level of emotional investment and anticipation after, I don't know, counting out your WWE Championship match because Randy Orton couldn't stop looking at Kofi's kids, then you're living in a delusion, especially when, number 1, the rules don't matter. Rule consistency is crucial for WWE and they do not care about it, and I don't know why. A consistent framework of rules in an ostensibly sporting contest creates a set of storytelling rules for you to play with, as well as shortening the gap of understanding between the presentation and the audience, so everyone's on the same page and everyone understands why the breaking of certain rules should make us angry, happy, whatever. Basically, not getting in the way of the audience and their emotions. Stories, basically. Instead, we live in a world where people eliminated from the Rumble can't eliminate current competitors, except when they do. Refs don't count out when main events brawl to the outside, except when they do. Tag matches are allowed to break down into skirmishes, except when they aren't. Hitting your opponent with a tiny bit of the announce table doesn't draw a DQ, except when it does. And Hell in a Cell matches can't end in no contest, except when Satan pisses directly in our brains. Every single time WWE pulls this, it makes match engagement harder and honestly just comes across as, f them. They're too dumb to remember the rules anyway. And I may be dumb, but I run a goddamn board game channel so I can remember rules. And that's our list. Subscribe to my board game channel over at No Rolls Barred. But also, if you like this video, please like and share it around the internet, and make sure you subscribe to PartsFUNknown for, honestly, next time, happier wrestling. It'll be a silly list next week. Super promise. All right, jam that jam. Oh, I need to scream into a pillow.